basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Do you understand that?
This week on Instant Experts, peace in the Middle East.
Commemorated in the usual fashion by firing 5,000 missiles at one's neighbours.
Trump drops the bunker bomb on Iran and the F-bomb on America.
I don't know about you, but the language, I was shocked and frankly disgusted. I was disgusted.
And in sport, an Aussie athletic superstar is upstaged by a high-speed wardrobe malfunction.
Henry, it was a case of the hurdles meets the javelin.
Welcome back to Instant Experts, Bizarre Love Triangle Edition. It's all the latest news explained by idiots, here to keep you sane in a crazy world. I'm Henry Lee, and as always, I'm here with my dear friend, the Honk. Honky, welcome.
Henry, what a mayhemic but wonderful week to be back with you. We say this every week. This is a show about crooks, fuckwits and morons.
Which of those caught your eye this week?
Well, crooks, fuckwits and morons caught my eye, a.k.a. Iran, Israel and the US, and the bizarre love triangle between them that you mentioned.
Except who's the crook, who's the fuckwit, and who's the moron?
Well, see, that's the intriguing million-dollar question, or perhaps more accurately, the 3,393,750 Israeli shekel conundrum, or perhaps more accurately, the 42,125,000,000,000 Iranian rial mystery.
Have they considered buying Bitcoin, Honky?
Yeah.
Anyway, before we share our penetrating analysis on the Middle East,
our instant expertise,
indeed, let's just bring our listeners up to speed, assuming that this episode is not already completely out of date.
You mean insofar as it's released 12 minutes after we recorded? You know?
Correct.
Yeah, it may well be, as you say. I mean, this is a story that really has got more twists and turns than Game of Thrones, isn't it?
Yes, and it's just as steamy, Honky.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, for the past couple of episodes, as we've been talking about, I mean, the unresolved sexual tension between Iran and Israel, and it finally exploded, literally, when Israel launched a surprise attack on Iran on June 13.
Israel initiated Operation Rising Lion, a nice erotic title there.
Very, very.
Preemptively attacking Iranian nuclear facilities, military sites, and other key infrastructure, including Natanz, Isfahan, and Fordo.
Is it just me, or does Fordo sound like the guy who played prop in the thirds at East Rugby and then spends the rest of the afternoon drinking?
That's right. And during the week, he sells Sydney pubs to other former GPS rugby players. That'll be APS AFL players for our Melbourne listeners.
Or if he's not selling pubs, he's clearly selling coke to other former rugby players, right? Attacks also, as we talked about, also targeted high-ranking Iranian military leaders and nuclear scientists.
Many of whom are now former military leaders and nuclear scientists.
Yes, and we assume they've had to update their LinkedIn profiles once again.
Well, indeed. After much consideration, Honky, and in consultation with my family, I have decided to spend more time with 57 Virgins.
Exactly. You understand LinkedIn very, very well. Anyway, Iran, of course, then responded in kind by sending over 150 ballistic and cruise missiles, as well as drones into Israeli cities like Tel Aviv, Haifa, Beersheba.
Beersheba, as you know, very famous in Australian history for the charge of the light horse in 1917.
I have a slightly bad feeling.
It was a great moment in Aussie history, my friend.
Fine. Just be clear, you have 30 seconds. Go for it.
So Beersheba is in what is now southern Israel, as you know, southeast of Gaza.
Mm-hmm.
It's on the northeastern side of the Sinai Desert, if you can picture that, which in turn is on the eastern side of the Suez Canal. So the Suez Canal go east, big desert, and then Beersheba's on the other side of that.
Mm-hmm.
So Allied forces in the First World War fought the Turks for control of the Sinai Peninsula, so they could maintain control of the Suez, basically, and get supplies through to the war effort.
Mm-hmm.
And so Beersheba was basically the town at the end of the Ottoman defensive line. And the Allied troops were there in October 1917 outside the town at dusk, and they desperately needed water to resupply the troops and the horses.
I heard they were there because I thought there were bees there. Is that why they call it Beersheba?
Boom, boom. Anyway, instead of attacking in conventional fashion, i.e. taking positions with rifles, machine guns and artillery, the Australian light horse charged the Turkish positions on horseback, right into the fire of 1,000 riflemen and 9 machine guns. But the attack was so quick and in such numbers they overwhelmed the Turkish trenches and were able to take the town. And shortly after the Turks got out of Gaza, probably a good move, and the Suez was secure. And it was the last great cavalry charge in not just Australian history, but military history worldwide, and the Aussies did it.
It's a great story, but that was sure as fuck not 30 seconds.
Well, the other interesting thing...
Oh my God, come on!
Australian commander was a guy called Sir Harry Chauvel, whose nephew, Charles Chauvel, later became a famous film director, which I know you are interested in.
I cannot be bought that easily. Although interestingly, just on Shawville, fun fact.
Anyway, they're still fighting over Beersheba 100 years on. Back to Iran, with apologies to all our listeners.
Yeah, if we still have any listeners, to recap, Israel attacked Iran attacked Israel, and the big question was, of course, whether the US would also intervene.
The other man, a classic love triangle.
Indeed, and in the spirit, the US this week conducted what they called Operation Midnight Hammer.
Right.
I think I've seen that one, by the way.
Because what was the other one? Rampant Lion.
It's not. I don't know. It's not
and
good.
Now Midnight Hammer.
Yeah. Operation Midnight Hammer. Yeah, and so they attacked the US. Then attacked the same Iranian nuclear sites at Natanz, Isfahan, and our old friend Fordo.
Oh, Fordo, mate.
Yeah. So Fordo is in fact is Iran's primary site for enriching uranium.
Right.
And is widely believed to be the place Iran is developing nuclear weapons.
Right.
The problem is it's basically in or under a mountain, so the US had to drop these massive bunker-busting bombs to damage it.
Right, and I read that they attacked the ventilator shafts, a bit like the Death Star in Star Wars.
Yeah, except I think from memory in Star Wars, the Death Star clearly exploded, whereas here the whole issue is it's what actually happened, right?
Right, so talk us through that.
Well, before we get to that, we have to say that Iran in turn then responded to the US attacks by attacking a US airbase in Qatar.
I didn't know they had an airbase in Qatar. It sort of feels like Virgin's tie up with Qatar Airlines, doesn't it? It's like Qatar's got a code sharing deal with the US Air Force.
Yeah, the US got whatever Virgin Airlines didn't get. I think pretty much that's sort of the tie.
They got the landing slots.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah,
in Tehran.
Yeah, indeed. So the funny thing was Iraq told the US though it was going to attack the airbase before it attacked the airbase.
Right. Okay. So that's strange. Why did they do that? Was that so they could be seen to do something, have the attack repelled, so the US could claim victory and Iran could also claim victory?
Yeah, except you're forgetting one crucial fact.
Right, what's that?
Which is Israel has also claimed victory.
Right, so this is a three-way war with three winners.
Yeah, indeed.
It's getting very WWE at this point.
Very main event WWE, although more about WWE later. But this bit unfortunately goes on. Trump went on Truth Social to claim that he had brokered a ceasefire, except that then Israel and Iran immediately broke the ceasefire.
Right, and how did Trumpy react to that?
Well, I think you'd have to say he's got his limits, we discovered. And there's audio that we heard at the start of the show where obviously Trump was not happy, and rightly so. So he dropped a truth bomb, having dropped a real bomb, and then he dropped the mic. Let's just listen again, maybe a bit more context.
I'm not happy with Iran either, but I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because the one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. I'm not happy about that. You know what? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the fuck they're doing.
Well, there you go. I mean, Honky, I've got to say, I think Trump, and this is not a surprise to anybody who listens to this show, but I think Trump is one of the single worst humans on the planet.
Yeah.
We've often said he's a crook, he's a fuckwit and a moron. So it's a little disconcerting to hear him say something that is basically true.
Yeah, that itself is true. Although, to be fair, Iran's official position has been sort of death to Israel, death to America since like 1979.
Right.
And of course, they also sponsor Hamas, the Houthis and Hezbollah, which are their proxies for attacking Israel.
Right, and proud members of terrorist organisations beginning with H.
I think they've cornered the market, haven't they?
Are there other members?
I think that might be it. Anyway, Israel's...
Who were the lunatics that chopped people up in Rwanda back in the day? What, Hutus? Were they the Hutus?
But they weren't terrorists. They were something else. They were sort of a...
civil warriors with machetes.
Yeah, indeed, yeah. Anyway, so you've got the proud members of the terrorist organisations beginning with H, and you've got Iran with their death to Israel, death to America.
Yeah.
Except, of course, Israel's conduct in Gaza, you'd have to say, in the past year, plus its historical insistence on bombing whoever the fuck they feel like across the Middle East, including like Syria, Lebanon, obviously puts them in a bit of a boy who cried wolf situation. I mean, Israel may be right about the need to attack Iran, but it seems to me they bomb so many places so fucking often, how would you know?
Right. So the point is, everyone just fires missiles at the neighbours when they feel like it.
Yeah.
And there was a reason at some point, and they've sort of forgotten it, and there's no upside to any of it.
Point is, there's no point, which I think is what Trump's point was.
Right. Well, that's fair. But even a stopwatch is right twice a day. Honky.
Yeah.
Now the question is to what extent Iran's nuclear program has been disabled.
Well, that's right. So Trump has claimed, and this is a whole other issue, right?
Yeah.
Trump has claimed the strikes obliterated Iran's nuclear capabilities. But expert reports have suggested the damage was significant but not total.
Right.
And Trump is now furious and ridiculing those assessments.
Right. And where do those assessments come from?
Well, his own US intelligence. Trump's now brought the CIA involved to contradict the US government's own military intelligence on whether or not Iran suffered much damage.
Right, the CIA, the voice you can trust.
Yeah.
So what's the upshot?
After all that, no one really knows is the problem. I mean, to return to the love triangle analogy, I think the issue now is everybody is temporarily sated, after this 2-week orgy. But we know soon enough they're going to be back, right, looking for action, right? But to borrow a great joke from The Onion, it's far from clear Israel has actually bombed the anti-Semitism out of Iran.
Yes.
And I'm not sure Iran has bombed the anti-terrorism out of Israel.
No, probably the US hasn't bombed the anti-American sentiment out of Iran either.
No, certainly not, yeah.
No. Well, as we said last week, it would be good if these countries focused on making their own citizens, A, happy, and B, rich, rather than blowing up their neighbours, don't you think?
That sort of crazy talk will get you exactly nowhere.
Okay. Folks, shout-outs to instant experts all over the world. We have loyal listeners all over Australia, of course.
Except, of course, for Darwin, home of the haters.
Indeed. Plenty of regulars all over the world.
Yeah, we're looking at you, I think, Singapore, are we not? Wembley, Whitstable in Kent.
Yes, we really are running amok in Kent, Honky, just like the werewolf. And new locations this week, including Stockholm in Sweden,
Ooh.
home of many things, of course, including the 1912 Olympics, who could forget,
Mm-hmm.
Lego, and I think that's Lego, or is that Danish?
Oh, that could be Denmark. We should do a little pre-apology now. I think we fucked that one up.
We've made that mistake before. Okay, 1912 Olympics was definitely Stockholm.
Definitely, yeah.
And Polar Studios.
Polar Studios is definitely in Stockholm, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the home, that obviously was ABBA's studio, where they recorded all their legendary albums. But isn't it also where Led Zeppelin's last proper album was recorded, in Through the Outdoor?
It was, yeah, great album. Fool in the Rain is one of my favourites from that album. Yes.
And Jimmy Page was whacked out on heroin, right?
Yeah, and speaking of heroin, we had a listener this week in Chiang Mai in the hill country of Thailand.
Not far from the famous Golden Triangle.
Indeed, the heroin capital of the world at the junction of Thailand, Laos and Myanmar.
Well, except I suspect you're a little out of date there, Henry. The Golden Triangle, I don't think it's been the heroin capital of the world since the 90s. Isn't like 80 or 90% of the world's supply now made in Afghanistan?
You might be right, Honky. But tell you what, can you humour me and say that as Inner West Karen?
Henry, I think you'll find that the Golden Triangle hasn't been the heroin capital since the 1990s. Show some respect for the Afghan workers and for the people of the Golden Triangle, and check your privilege.
Thank you. I enjoy that.
You feel better?
I feel better, yes. I stand corrected. And lastly, an iconic American location, Honk, Knoxville, Tennessee, which was Tennessee's first capital. Didn't know that. Gateway to the Appalachians and home of the University of Tennessee and, of course, the Volunteers, and Vols Stadium, which is one of the largest and is certainly the orangest football stadium in the USA.
Is it also the home of Johnny Knoxville of Jackass?
It is.
Patron saint of stupid stunts?
It is, as opposed to this show, which is the patron saint of stupid... Well, anyway, rhymes for stunts.
Yes, indeed. And in fact, more on that later too, Henry. A little surprise for you later on.
Right. I'm looking forward to that. Now, what else have you got?
Oh, sorry, am I holding you up now that you're through your fucking history of Charles Chauvel live in Beersheba, triple CD?
IMAX, strictly speaking.
We did a lot of Iran up the top, but it is the story, so I think we have to keep going with it just a bit. First bit is Vice President J.D. Vance.
BJ Vance, the Vice Prostate. Haven't heard from him for a while.
No, that's right. Friend of the show, husband of Usha Vance, terminally unsatisfied second lady, having the unrequited relationship with Eric the Viking in Greenland. Anyway, BJ Vance said it was at pains during all this to say the US was not at war with Iran, only with Iran's nuclear program, and the US had no interest in regime change.
Right, and what happened then?
Well, immediately he was contradicted by Donald Trump, who said, quote, it's not politically correct to use the term regime change, but if the current Iranian regime is unable to, in all uppercase, make Iran great again, why wouldn't there be a regime change? Capital M, capital I, capital G, capital A.
I'm glad we're all on the same page.
Yeah,
but
indeed.
it seems to me like a negotiating tactic. He's basically threatening to kill Khomeini if he doesn't play ball.
Yes, except, of course, lots of people are now speculating that Iran took the opportunity to move the nuclear material it was storing at Fordo, mate, to other locations. So Trump's own stupid Truth Social posts may well, in fact, have tipped them off.
Right. So you're saying they've still got all the uranium?
Well, it's quite possible. Also, if you're going to be threatening Khomeini, the supreme leader of Iran, you've got to spare a thought for the thousands of other guys now who you're putting in danger.
Right.
I've noticed it's this alarming trend of men of a certain age who all end up looking like Khomeini. Like, as Instagram has noted, David Letterman, obviously, you watch out. David Letterman's got Rick Rubin.
Huge beard,
The producer, Rick Rubin.
Yeah.
Richard Harris in his Dumbledore phase.
Yeah.
And a slightly more esoteric one, the famous Australian film critic David Stratton.
Yes, and the famous Australian podcaster, The Honk, you've got a beard.
Yeah, but not a Richard Harris Dumbledore.
Well, not yet.
No, I'm working on it.
The good news is I'm fine. I still can't grow a beard.
No, you're a
I'm
real
52.
man. Don't ever let anybody say you're not a real man. What is Iran's response going to be, right? It's now on state TV saying, quote, every American citizen or military personnel in the region is now a target.
Right, so we've agreed to a ceasefire, but
Yeah.
you're all targets.
Yeah. And the key issue for deep-thinking people around the world, of course, is this, which is this is the big question, right? The big political question.
Yes.
We could sum the whole thing up in one sentence.
Yeah, well, how does it all end?
What is going to happen to WWE's Night of Champions,
Yes.
which is scheduled to be held this weekend as we record this in Saudi Arabia?
Right.
Is it a target, or will they be able to crown the king and queen of the ring in peace?
Oh, that escaped my attention, but you, Honky, are certainly thinking about the big issues.
Huge international things are at stake.
Right.
The champion-
Is that why? Does that explain ceasefire?
I reckon.
Right.
I reckon Trump. The timing is genius, right?
Right.
That's why he did it. Everyone was sort of saying that that he gave them 2 weeks to Iran, and then he bombed them after 48 hours. I think he meant to give them 2 weeks, but he forgot about Night of Champions.
Right.
Which
Okay.
is why he bombed them after 48 hours.
Who's on the card?
Well, who isn't? Who isn't on the card? Champion John Cena is fighting CM Punk. You would know them both well.
I've heard of Cena. Yeah.
Okay, you're just being.
No, I've not heard of Cena.
Randy Orton is wrestling, if you know him.
I do not. Is Rhea Ripley involved? The Great South Australia?
She is involved. There you
I
go. You're
learned
learning
about
something.
A few episodes ago.
Yeah.
Well, we don't want her in harm's way. She can obviously handle herself in the ring better than anybody, except maybe for the fellow Adelaidean Terence Tao, the genius.
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
But missiles are another story. So how do we get through this, Honky?
There's only one solution, isn't there? Well,
Yes.
you've got wrestling, you've got Iran, you've got the USA, and they're at odds, right?
Yes, I see. I think I know it.
There's only one answer. You have to bring back the Iron Sheik. He can fight Hulk Hogan to sort out the Middle East once and for all.
Yes. If only he hadn't died 2 years ago, Honky. Although he was actually Iranian.
Yeah, he
Sheikh,
played
wasn't
it. He played the dirty, bad Iranian in like the 70s and 80s in the US. But in fact, he is Iranian. In fact, I think from memory, he was in contention for the Iranian wrestling team at the 1968 Olympics before he moved to the US. And I think he actually was a bodyguard for the Shah before the Shah was overthrown by the Ayatollah Khomeini in 1979.
Right, I did not know that. So then the question becomes, if he was bodyguard for the Shah was overthrown by the Ayatollah.
Yeah.
Who's the Ayatollah before this one, I think.
Yeah.
Whose side is he on?
Well, look, to me, it's pretty clear. If you listen to this audio, it's pretty clear.
Russia, number one. Iran, number one. USA, at
Right, but how does he feel about the Hulk Hogan?
Well, again,
You are liar, piece of garbage. What kind of fucking man? You are Hulk Hogan. Fuck you. First let me be Donald Trump, and you're going to be next in my target.
Now, Hulk, it's not the only international carnage this week.
there was this big meeting of NATO this week. I think it was in the Netherlands, right? And it ended up being, they've sort of learned the lesson about how to deal with Trump. The whole
Right.
thing was a massive blowjob
Right.
for Trump.
Right.
They made a great show of like telling him they were upgrading him from his hotel to a castle.
Right.
I think
right.
where some of the royal family live.
This is like Grandpa at the Four Seasons.
Yeah, Grandpa Menachem at the Four Seasons. Like, they really know who I am. you, Mr. Menachem. You really...
Right? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, you're having the halal meal, are you not? The bit I heard about was when the head of NATO called Trump daddy.
That's right.
I wasn't quite sure of the context. But,
Yeah, so he was in a press. Trump was in a press event with is his name Rutte,
Right.
Rutte, and Trump compared Israel and Iran. He was comparing Israel and Iran to like two kids fighting in a playground. And then Rutte said, "quote And then Daddy has to sometimes use strong language to get them to stop."
Right.
He's referring to the F bomb, right?
Yeah. Well, Trump would have loved that.
Yeah.
But, because I have a mental age of 15
Mhm.
at the top end,
Top end.
I like that the guy who said it is called Rutte.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. He good mate of Fordo's.
Yeah, nickname Mad Rutte. I think he's a former Dutch Prime Minister.
I think that's
actually.
right,
He's
yeah,
probably
yeah.
a serious person.
Yeah, although to be fair to Trump, which is bizarrely is the second time we've had to say that today.
Yes, the stop clock.
Indeed, he has managed to get Europe to spend more on defence, which is
Right.
probably a reasonable request.
So the argument from the US is that Europe has been underspending on defence, subsidised by the US. So
Yeah,
they've all agreed to spend 5% on defence, which is up from 2% previously, although 1.5% of the 5% stuff they do anyway, and it's not really defence; it's cybersecurity,
Gotcha,
and
right.
infrastructure upgrades. But anyway, at a minimum they've gone to 3.5%, on a kind few 5%.
Except, of course, I think for Spain, right, which is sticking at 2%.
That's staying at 2%.
I assume there's been the rest on like Hamon and a Almodovar movie set in windy locales where Penelope Cruz's top just accidentally keeps falling off.
Nothing wrong with that. He's actually gay, Almodovar.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, so it's a public service. Especially by him, but especially by Penelope Cruz.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, it's true.
Now, Honky, on the defence stuff, the other question for Australians is where's Albo in all this? Prime Minister, fearless leader Anthony Albanese, who I think is Prime Minister.
Yeah. Overwhelmingly elected with a massive majority, which he's using to great effect.
That's right. The last I heard, he couldn't get a meeting with anybody pretty much. Is there any progress, or is he still sort of waiting outside the teacher's office with lamingtons and a smile?
Yeah, you mean after Trump cancelled on him at the G7 in Canada, like we talked about last week?
That's right, we did, didn't we? Yeah.
He's come out and said that Australia will not be told how to spend its money on defence.
Right.
Except, of course, he's also now said that he's going to be increasing our defence spending by $57 billion.
Right. And what about the meeting?
Well, he actually did, in fact, in return for finally caving to Trump, he got the meeting with Trump that he wanted.
Right.
Except it won't be Trump and it won't be him.
Apart from that,
it's going to be our Foreign Minister Penny Wong meeting with US counterpart Marco Rubio.
Right. So he's on the undercard.
Albo's on the undercard. Yeah. I think he'll be like selling like the hot dogs and the cheap seats. He could be like holding up the numbers between rounds, like one of those Diamante G-string bikini he had to make himself at Spotlight.
Yeah. Who was the person who did was in Sound of Music on Broadway and then got replaced by Julie Andrews? That feels like that's what this feels like.
Sound of Music.
Yeah.
Oh, Mary Martin. I think it was Mary Martin.
There you go.
Yeah.
So that's Albo's. Okay, Honky. Quick shots.
Yes.
The one that grabbed me was, despite all the attention at NATO, Trump's still whining about not getting a Nobel Peace Prize. Obviously, in the same week that he bombed Iran.
Yeah, a little bit of a case of please choose, right?
Indeed, but he sent a tweet saying, quote, "I won't get a Nobel Peace Prize for stopping the war between India and Pakistan," brackets, which India denied he did.
Yes.
"I won't get a Nobel Peace Prize for stopping the war between Serbia and Kosovo. No, I won't get a Nobel Peace Prize no matter what I do, including Russia/Ukraine and Israel/Iran. But the people know, and that's all that matters to me."
Yeah, which is why he's complained about it publicly to millions of people in a tweet. Is that right?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. It does beg the question, doesn't it, which is how many countries do you have to bomb to win a Peace Prize around here?
That's a very fair question.
Yeah.
Trump had nothing to do with stopping the war between Serbia and Kosovo.
No.
Which ended in 1999.
So one must say, he became president in 2017, right?
So
he was only out by 18 years there, right?
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
So Serbia and Kosovo did do a deal in Trump's first term, which normalised economic relations. So he did something, but not what he claims.
There's a huge groundbreaking shock, isn't it?
Yeah.
And unless I've missed something, Russia and Ukraine are still they're still going at it, aren't they?
Yes. And can you get a Peace Prize, really, for throwing Ukraine under the bus?
Surely the Peace Prize should go to, like...
Penelope Cruz.
Got to go to Penelope Cruz, right?
Yeah, for services to relaxing half the population.
At least half the population. Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
yeah, indeed, yeah. Anyway, let's finish quick shots with a fun one. I don't know if you heard about this, but I became aware this week of this online parlor game that started up called Florida Man. Have you heard about this?
I have not, no.
So the idea is you Google the search term Florida Man and you put in any date you choose and you enjoy the results. And the idea is it's always going to be something fucking mental about some Florida man running into trouble with the law.
Right,
like, for example, give you an example. Like, Henry, what's your birthday?
Well, that's classified information.
Of course, yeah.
I'm a globally famous media superstar.
Of course, yeah. In a relationship with Margot Robbie.
Correct.
Yeah, indeed.
Correct.
Yeah.
So let's go with today's date, shall we? It's June 27th as record. So
we're Googling Florida Man June 27. What do we get?
Let's have a look. Okay, here we go. Florida man ends up in jail after accidentally sending cops a dash cam video of himself stealing from a booty shop. That's a strong opener.
What else?
A Florida man was arrested after witnesses told police they saw him kicking two swans while practicing karate at Orlando's Lake Eola.
Yeah.
That's quality.
Yeah.
And another one, officers in Cape Coral, Florida, witnessed a completely nude man dance around a fire, stand in the flames and chant gibberish.
Yeah, we got to get that. We got to get that guy on the show. We got to get that.
How do you know he's not on the show right now?
Fair question.
Okay, Honky, time, as always, for some sport.
Yes.
It's systems normal in the footy, I can report.
That is the rugby league, you mean?
Well, but all codes. West Tigers lost again in the NRL this week.
That's how many in a row?
That's 5 in a row with another opportunity to lose again tonight.
Now, that's getting exciting because we started off this whole thing about our beloved shithouse favourite football team, West Tigers, by saying they had a chance to do what no one's ever done before, which is to do what again?
To win a fourth wooden spoon in a row.
That it's to come last
Yes.
of all teams in the comp 4 years in a row. And they're back on they're on track.
They're tracking well. And Honky in the AFL, the other major winter code, your AFL tips last week were
superb.
As expected, a debacle.
How dare you?
I only had 4 winners, my worst week of the season.
Yeah.
And I'm still out of the lead in the Morningstar tipping competition.
Did you follow all my last minute tips? Like, did you back like the Hawthorn Hogs?
Right.
What about like what's that? Not Perth, the other team, the Fremantle Cockers. What are they?
I did not.
Yeah. So if you didn't follow them, what are you complaining about? Shut the fuck up. What about the Gold Coast Sluts? They're a great team.
I did not.
They're a great team, fantastic team.
Well, indeed.
Yeah.
Okay, let me regain my composure.
Of course, yeah.
Honk, but the big story this week came from the Diamond League Athletics, which I know you follow very closely.
Well, you're making fun of me because I actually, let's be honest, no sports except for pro wrestling at all. Except, as it happens, you're wrong because more fool you, because I actually do follow this sport, athletics, quite closely, thank you.
Right, so where was the meeting this week?
I think it was in Ostrava, in the Czech Republic, and the meeting was called the Golden Spike.
Right, it had a touch of Inner West Karen.
I think you'll find that the meeting was in Ostrava, in a beautiful place with a lot of diversity in the Czech Republic, which has been freed from the yoke of communism.
Yes, freed from the yoke of Slovakia.
I was about to say that too, but of course you mansplained over the top of me in the usual way because you think women don't have anything to think about or say. And the event was called the Golden Spike, if you don't mind.
Right, okay. And what happened?
Well, there actually were two big events, two actual things, exciting things that happened.
Right.
There's a young
You actually do know about this.
There's a young Aussie sprint sensation, like a Sudanese-Australian guy. I think he's only 17, called Gout.
Yes.
Surely a future Olympic gold medalist.
Yeah.
He won the 200 metres event. I think it was his first international race in the sizzling time, I think it was, of 20.02.
The sizzling time.
Yeah.
Honky, you've got a bright future on the Channel 10 Sports Report.
Thank you very much.
Assuming Channel 10 still exists.
Well, it actually was sizzling, and I think it was a new Australian record. And as I said, the kid's only 17.
Right, yeah, that is fair, Honky. It is one of the fastest times ever by an under-20 athlete from anywhere, and it's only a fraction slow, I think about 0.09 slower than the great man, the GOAT, Usain Bolt.
That I didn't know. But the other big story, which is even bigger, and emphasis on the word big, was the American hurdler whose tackle busted out during the race.
Right, I did hear about that. So talk us through that. I couldn't bring myself to watch the video.
Yeah.
If I know you watched it.
If you had, you would not have forgotten it. Let me put it that way.
Yeah.
So as you know, they run in this pretty sort of streamlined gear.
Yeah.
And there's this American guy, as I said, 400-meter hurdler called Chris Robinson.
Yeah.
And not the guy from the Black Crows, whose equipment, let's just say, got loose in the straight. If I can put it that way.
That's not good. So what did he do? At that point, you have to choose between getting the Franken beans back in place or winning the race, right?
Yes, except amazingly, he actually did both. I mean, he tried to make several adjustments to no avail, and then he slammed into the last hurdle.
Right, what with? Was it like that pole vaulter in the Olympics? Remember him, Penelope Cruz?
Oh,
at the
yeah,
Olympics?
yeah.
Who brought down the bar with his flute?
No, he didn't. I think he slammed
a man on a pole bringing down a bar with his flute.
He slammed into the last hurdle, and then he did a diving somersault across the line, and he won it.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. And what was his time?
My guess is like 6 or 7 inches. With my head.
Well done, Honky, on that sizzling sports report.
Thank you very much.
And well done, Chris Robinson. You have won the Golden Spike.
I think he is the Golden Spike. He won it. He won it. He has it. He is the Golden Spike.
Well, folks, that's mercifully all we have time for. We'll be back next week at the usual time, early Saturday morning, East Coast time in Australia. Meantime, find us in all the usual locations on social media, especially Instagram and TikTok.
Yes.
And please share us with your friends in your WhatsApp groups and retweets and so forth, and rate us.
Yes, and of course, reminder that you can send us a text, which we'd love to get. We'll read out on the show from our show notes, which appear on all the platforms where our podcast is available. You can send us a voicemail from our show notes via our website homepage, but you can do it right from our show notes. And if you get a second, actually read our show notes, because there are almost always jokes that if you can believe it, we thought were too stupid actually to make the cut for the actual episode itself.
No, Honky, we often finish with an audio clip, and I think we've got 2 this week.
We do.
Yes, so we said earlier that Trump is like a stop clock. He's wrong most of the time, but he is right occasionally.
Yes.
And as well as weighing in correctly on Iran and Israel, as we discussed, he weighed in on this show.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we've been piling shit on Trump for like 20 episodes and counting. So it does seem to us only fair that we give him a right of reply. And in fact, he helped himself to a right of reply about our show. So that is the last clip you'll hear.
Right. And before that...
Well, having said something conciliatory about Trump, in fact, a few things, we have to remind ourselves what a classless oaf he is. And he helped us out during this week by posting to his Truth Social account a parody of the Beach Boys classic Barbara Ann.
Right. Which, by the way, Honk, was actually a cover version. Did you know that?
God.
The song was written by a guy called Fred Fassett.
For the love of God, no.
Whose sister was called Barbara Ann.
For fuck's sake, what's next? Did you marry Warren Zevon?
No, he married Crystal Zevon and had a child with a woman named
good.
Marilyn Dillon.
I'm delighted. Fantastic.
Whose nickname was Tully, that he wrote a song about on Excitable Boy.
Oh, God.
Which is a great album. You should try it.
Anyway, the point is Trump republished a parody in the middle of all this disaster and tension around the Middle East. He republished a parody of Barbara Ann, very tastefully entitled Bomb Iran.
Yeah, he's a classy guy, isn't he, Honko?
No, he is no Warren Zevon, which, by the way, is not a cue for you to mention some other fucking factoid about Warren Zevon.
Warren Zevon. Okay, well, he now officially promised to stop talking and enjoy, everybody, the 2 clips, Barbara Ann and Trump's review of Instant Experts.
Yes, indeed.
Be back at the usual time next week because stupid never sleeps.
Stupid never sleeps. Thank you for your company and enjoy this shocking ditty and then Trump's review.
Bomb, bomb, Iran. Bomb, 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 Iran. Bomb, 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 Iran. Bomb, 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 Iran. What country's got a feeling really hit the ceiling? Bomb, Iran. Bomb, 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 Iran. Went to a mosque, gonna throw some rocks. Tell the Ayatollah gonna put you in a box. Bomb, Iran. Bomb, 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 bomb.
You know what? We basically have 2 cunts that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Do you understand that?